Hello, this is Franco Cabral broadcasting from the Honest Liar podcast, a conversation around finding the inner liar within all of us and leveraging the truth to create expansion across all areas of your life. Today's topic is unlimited potential. So one of my targets for this year is creating a weekly spiritual game with my family and implementing it by Q4. And one of the first quarter's targets towards that target is going to study Buddhism. It's something I've been called to. I've been kind of in and out studying it over the past year. But this first quarter, I'm going to take a deep dive into it. And for me, that means I'm doing a weekly class on Buddhism. I'm listening to 1 to 2 podcasts, journaling, and also sharing lessons learned, both with my pod as well as with my wife. But today I was thinking about where my spiritual journey really started about 2.5 years ago and how far I've come, but also how much potential I yet to have to go spiritually. Over just about 2.5 years ago, as you may or may not have listened in the first podcast or first few podcasts, when I first was asked the question about my reality or the facts that existed in my faith and my connection with God, I remember writing down for the first time ever in my life, is there a God? I don't know if I believe in God. And I was completely spiritually lost only about 2 years ago. I remember feeling completely empty and broken and more alone than ever in my life when I wrote down, I don't know if there's a God. And it was because I was amidst a storm in my life. Everything seemed dark. There was no light. And at that time, what I felt was, if there is a God, then why the fuck would he have let me feel what I'm feeling and go through what I'm going? And where is he? Why is he not here giving me the answers, the guidance? And the reality is that I've learned he was there all along. And I have, over the last 2 years, gotten to the place where I have a personal relationship with God. Now, that means, it's not the purpose of my podcast for me, but it's something that I feel spiritually connected to God for the first time in my life, really. I grew up Catholic. I got my first communion. I went to Catholic high school. Confirmation, all of that. But I was never really connected to Catholicism. I was never really connected to spirituality. I went because I was told to go. I saw my parents go and, I didn't think about it at the time, but the reality is my parents at that time in my life were also going out of obligation. They felt that, I needed spirituality, my brother needed spirituality, but it was never something that at that time in my life I ever really experiencing them being spiritually, truly connected. And they may have been, but that was the way that I experienced them. So when I got to the point where I was deciding what I'm going to do as a young adult, an adult spiritually, it never was something that was important to me. Because again, it was one of those things that I just thought you're supposed to do because you're supposed to do, but not because I really got something of it. And because of that, I never really went to God for a very long time. And life was good, or so I thought. And I had a lot of things that masked the need in my mind to have spirituality or connection until this storm hit for me and exposed me. And I talk about, the dark place that I was in spiritually was one of the toughest part. Because a spiritual connection, a true spiritual connection, as I've learned it, makes you feel like you're not alone, even in some of the darkest of times. So over the last 2 years, I have dived into this journey of spirituality for me with very small baby steps. And one of them is my meeting with God, which I've communicated in previous podcasts. And it is a frame that I have around how I connect with God on a weekly basis. But the biggest reason why I felt that I was able to open up my heart to this conversation of God and start this process was because I shifted from looking for spirituality externally. If you're looking for spirituality externally and you don't see a physical presence of God, you have to believe. And belief comes first from within and faith prior. So I shifted my perception of spirituality and I started looking for God within myself. And I've gotten coaching and mentorship on this process, and obviously some help along the way. But this year, I set an intention that I was going to dive deeper into this conversation about spirituality. And in today's Buddhism class that I was in, they talked about how Buddhism is about this concept of unlocking your unlimited potential. And I started listening to this and I'm like, wow, that means that everybody has that capability of finding their potential within them. And then I started to think, okay, well, that's kind of nice to describe, but how real is that? And then I started to think about my spiritual journey. And the reality is that I always had the ability to connect with God. It was always there. The potential for my spirituality was always there, but it was hidden under the thoughts that I had around spirituality and the storm that I was experiencing. So today, ironically, in this class, they also described how sometimes we get caught up in this storm and the feelings that we're feeling or the thoughts that we have, and we get so attached to these thoughts that we start to associate and identify that we are these thoughts. And I said, wow, this makes a lot of sense to me because basically we become the storm. And when we are the storm, there is no opportunity for the storm to subside. And they also, furthered this conversation, this story in explaining that we're not the storm. The storm is just a part of us and it passes. So when you're angry, you're not an angry person. You're just feeling angry. When I'm anxious, I'm not an anxious person. I'm just feeling and experiencing anxiety in that moment. And similar to a storm, the storm subsides as long as we don't attach ourselves too much to the storm. They also explain that with this metaphor of the storm is that we're not the storm, we're the sky. And the sky has unlimited potential. And the power behind that, what I realized when they explained this analogy they were using is you cannot destroy the sky. The sky is too vast, and there might be a storm in one place, but in another place it's sunny because the sky is just so vast. So it was a very deep philosophical conversation. It's one of the reasons why I love Buddhism. It's complex, but it's actually very simple at the same time. One of the things that I heard was Buddhism is the science of happiness. And it made a lot of sense when I heard that because Buddhism is something that I've been really attracted to because I've been looking for how do I create more happiness in my life. And that is what I have been on the journey to create. And I have in many, many ways, and I continue to seek that. But this concept of unlimited potential is what I want to come back to because we all have unlimited potential in all areas of our lives. You've heard me talk about, your body, your fitness, how you take care of yourself. No matter where you are listening to this podcast today in your body, you have the potential to be an athlete. You have the potential to be elite and weaponized within your body. The potential already exists. It's like this beautiful piece of art that you have within your body, and you just have to choose whether you are the thoughts and the stories and the habits around where you have been taking care of your body, or whether you can just change those thoughts, because our thoughts are not fixed. Our thoughts are what our thoughts are in the moment, and we can choose other thoughts, which is pretty powerful. It's also the concept of the spark that you've heard me talk about often. But in that power is recognizing that we are unlimited in all aspects of our lives. So as I'm diving deeper into this conversation around spirituality, I'm realizing that the answer lies within me. I am the sky. And the deeper I go into my own sky, the more I'm going to learn and connect with myself. Just like my relationship with my wife. We are in the best place that we've ever been in the history of our marriage. And we're on fire. We're in such an amazing place. But that potential was always there. The relationship we have was uncovered through a lot of hard work, through a lot of therapy, through a lot of work personally on both of us, through a lot of intention, connection, commitment, dedication on a daily basis, we've uncovered this potential. And again, same concept applies to your business or where you are within your business or, your employment. There is way more potential than you have unlocked to this point. It's just you have to do more work. You have to change your stories. You have to change your habits. You are not the fixed point of where you are right now in this moment. And it was just a profound thought, because that means that we're all powerful. We all have the potential within us to uncover whatever it is that we desire. And first, you have to believe in yourself that you can become different than where you are in any aspect of your life. So if this message is coming to you and you're listening and you're like, well, I'm in a shitty place in one area of my life or two areas or three areas, or maybe everything's on fire, I'll have you consider that you're just paying attention to the storm. And don't identify too closely to that storm, because you're not the storm, you're the sky. And the sky cannot be destroyed by a storm unless you identify too closely to that storm and you lose sight of the fact that you're not the storm, you are the sky. So that's the lesson that I want you to learn with today. And I just want you to, today's application of this is just create some thinking time. Take 15 minutes, meditate on this thought of you are not the storm, you are the sky, and the sky cannot be destroyed. You have this unlimited potential that lies within you. Thank you for tuning in to the Honest Liar Podcast, a conversation around finding the inner liar within all of us and leveraging the truth to create expansion across all areas of your life. If you've found value in this podcast, please share this with somebody else you think will find value, and also please rate and review the show, as it helps with spreading light, which is my mission. Thank you very much, and have a great day.